So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And a bit of technical issues there to start the show. We wouldn't have it any other way. But I want to chat to you today, guys, about Brentford versus Aston Villa. And to be honest, feels like I'm talking about this game all day. Everybody seems really interested about the Brentford game, and work, everybody's been asking me about it. And I did a great podcast this morning with the guys in the Villa Pride Down Under. Go check it out on YouTube and on Twitter as well. Great guys, Mark and Rhino and Tez. And yeah, it was a really, really good chat this morning that we had with those guys as well. So go check it out later on after this. But yeah, this is good. This is a really big game. I think the weekend, it's a game that could define where our Premier League season goes. You know, obviously we've dropped points that we thought we would win, and we need to start winning points where we think we will win as well. And it's this game has the feeling of being a big game for, you know, that will tell a lot about whether we are going to progress or not. You know, progress towards Europe, should I say, or definitely towards the Champions League. 3 points here is obviously it creates more distance between ourselves and Brentford, who are just behind us, 4 points behind us in 11th place. But it also gets us closer to the teams playing at the top of the league or in the European places as well. So it's super important that we go out and we give this game the respect that we need to give it, and the respect that we should give it, and the respect that we will give it, given that you know, Unai Emery is still talking about fighting on all three fronts at this moment in time. I don't know about you guys, but I've been trying to get the press conference, because I liked what we did last time. I liked how we were able to watch the press conference and talk about it together. But for some reason on Villa TV, it doesn't want to play. Whenever you click on it, nothing happens. And the same thing goes for all the stuff on Villa TV. So it looks like we're not going to have the press conference there. But I think the big piece that came out of the press conference was no new injuries that I saw anywhere that I was aware of. However, Onana's back on grass. Barkley is still a bit away from returning just yet, so we won't have Barkley. Does remain unavailable, but Onana is close to returning, and maybe we see him for the Champions League game. Cash, Kamara, Torres all in line for more minutes, or even for starting, I suppose, at the weekend as well. But there wasn't really much. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise we don't watch this press conference, because there wasn't really much came from it. It was a shorter press conference from what I can gather as well. You know, Unai Emery spoke a small bit about fatigue, about managing fatigue with the players, and you know, players are being added back into the squad after injury, and they're managing those minutes. They're managing players' time on the field, which makes sense, especially when you're at this business part of the season as well. Which I think is smart. Specifically, you know, you don't want Pau Torres to come back in and break down after 20 minutes again. I think we would all be very deflated if something like that happened as well. And it's great he spoke about Kamara's comeback and the fact that we needed him, and that they were trying to protect him by not playing him that much. And maybe I do think that we will see minutes from him. And to be honest with you, I think he's going to start at the weekend as well. You mentioned Cash in the same boat to the fact that it's you know, Cash has been injured on and off an awful lot this season. They're trying to protect him, which leads me to believe that I think we're going to see Garcia in there right back, and makes sense, I suppose. Really, Cash had 30 minutes at the weekend or against Bruges, and Garcia obviously not in a position to play in the Champions League. He won't be playing again next Wednesday, so maybe you play Garcia in this game, or you play Disassi or whatever, you know. So we've got a lot of options there as well. And he talks about that, about being intelligent about when we play these guys, how we play these guys, how we integrate them back into the team, whether it be Cash, Kamara, Pau Torres, and the like as well. So it's he's talking about consistency as well, and this was really interesting. And I'd like to have I've been able to play this because I don't know what way the question was posited or what way the question was asked, but he spoke a bit about being more consistent, and I think that's kind of leaning into his thought process with regards to team selections. And I think it should, and I'm okay with that, and I'm happy for that to be the case. But how it's leaning into his team selections would be, consistency is bred by stability within the team. So just because somebody's back from injury doesn't mean you throw them straight into the team if that part of the team is performing better or is performing the way you want it to. Stability, familiarity, and all that is what breeds success and what breeds good performances, specifically in areas like midfield and in defence. And while we can all see that potentially players might be flagging or might need a rest and stuff like that, they're going to have the sports science information, and you would hope that they're going to be using that specifically with the amount of injuries that we have to know whose load management needs to be upped or who needs less minutes on the field. Thinking mostly, I suppose, of Youri Tielemans there with the amount of football that he's played. But I would fully expect Boubacar Kamara to come in, because when you mention consistency, the first name I think in this team that comes to mind is Boubacar Kamara. The fact that he allows other players to be more consistent. He gives them the freedom to play their game, specifically Tielemans, specifically Rodgers as well. The safety blanket he creates for that back four as well, being able to slot in to create a back three if needed. Do we need to play Disasi or Konsa at right back? We can go with it, Andres Garcia at right back, because we know we have Kamara who can shield that back too and participate in it as a central defender as well if needed, if we are looking to keep an extra person home. The dynamism and I suppose the fluidity that it gives the formational setup is there's nobody else like it. There is nobody else in the team that can do that can swap you from a 3-5-2 to a 4-4-2 to a 4-2-3-1 and still hold his position and be that one person who is anchored and doesn't need to move, because he's good at doing that role. He's arguably one of the best in the Premier League at doing that role. And, that's, we call it claret and blue glasses on, but every time he's in this team of late, we play an awful lot better and we look a lot more sturdy. And away from home, we need to look more sturdy. And that's what leads me to believe that he will probably play tomorrow as well. Brentford's form is obviously their home form. At the start of the year, they were scoring goals for fun. They were winning at home. Everything was rosy in the garden, but they've slumped off slightly. And I know that's when teams love to play Aston Villa, because if you're going through a bad run of not scoring goals or not winning at home, who do you want to come to town? The good old boys in claret and blue from Birmingham. But Brentford have been in poor form of late, and they're winless in their last 6, which will be of concern to Thomas Frank, considering their injury list is lengthy, to say the least. Their injury list is, I think they have about 9 or 10 players out injured at the moment, and that's a concern for them. And one of the players that is out injured for them is Christian Norgard, who always plays well against Aston Villa, beside Vitaly Janelt in that double pivot that they play. And when you look at their team, that double pivot is so important for them, because once again, we talk about ours and how our pivot players allow our front three or front four to flourish. And I actually have no idea who's going to play in that front four tomorrow. And to be honest with you, that makes me excited in a lot of ways, because of the unpredictability of it. I spoke about familiarity and consistency in the defense earlier on, with defensive partnerships and midfield partnerships. As you go further up the field, yes, you're going to need chemistry there from players. We've seen it between Rashford and Asensio. But it's exciting. Like, the firepower we have is absolutely crazy currently at the moment. The 3 that we've said it before, the 3 we could play behind Watkins, you could sub them out at 60 minutes for a completely fresh 3 and still feel very confident about that setup that you have there. Brentford, and the reason I say that is that Brentford's 3 behind their striker as well. Their striker is not Brian Mbeumo, he plays from the right-hand side an awful lot, but Vissa that plays up top, very underrated striker. Does some amount of work, has been a real workhorse for them, and somebody that their fans are absolutely in love with. He's going to be playing up top, we would imagine. Shade from the left and Mbeumo from the right, and probably Mikkel Damsgaard there in the centre as well. And that's a formidable front four, which is going to need minding, specifically with our home crowd at the G-Tech roaring them on. We're going to need to work to do a body of work on those four, and that's another reason why I think Boubacar Kamara will be starting in this game too. Now we can probably, I think you start to look at their back four. Lewis Potter might be in the left hand side. Actually, I think he will be on the left hand side, considering Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey look like they're going to be out. Then you're going to have Ethan Pinnock, who seems to just always be there. You know, he's a mainstay in the team. One of my favorites, Nathan Collins, is there. And then on the right hand side, they're playing the big Norwegian guy, Christopher Ayer, formerly of Celtic. I think that's an area Villa need to really, really hammer on their right hand side / our left side. I think that's a massive area we need to hammer at the weekend. Not because Ayer's a bad player, but you could create a mismatch there. Like he's a good player, but he's all of 6'4", 6'5". He's going to be playing it right back. And he's a converted defensive midfielder. And I kind of want to see Marcus Rashford go up against him. I want to see Rashford go up against him. I want to see Rashford do his thing. He's been played all over the back line for Brentford this year. He's played right back 9 times. I think it's about 9 times already. Left back, he's played at 5 times. He's played defensive midfielder. He's played on the right side of midfield. He's played centre half as well this year. So they've really utilised him as a utility player. I keep on forgetting how young he is as well. I think he's only about 26. But I would want I would want Rashford running at him. And based on that, and not, as I say, not because he's a bad player, but I just think there could be a mismatch to be had there. Rashford running at him, Rodgers making diagonal runs, maybe Digne going on the outside. I think that, you know, I like Nathan Collins an awful lot, and I've seen him play for Ireland. And when he has to consistently scan left, right, and to wonder what's going in behind him, like most defenders, he finds the processing of that difficult. If you give Nathan Collins a straight ball to deal with, he will deal with it all day long, and he'll lick his lips and he'll be man of the match. If you give Nathan Collins, if you start running down the side of Nathan Collins, and you've got other people then getting to the penalty spot as well, and Nathan Collins has to turn around and try and marshal himself, the man in front of him, and other people, sometimes you can see him get muddled up. Sometimes you can see him get caught between two minds. Happens, like, it's very few defenders that, like, it's the best defenders that can cope with that multi-directional attacks on them. And I think that's what we need to do. Now, could they set up in some sort of different formation where they play 3 at the back with Pinnock, Collins and Ayer, and maybe Yarmouk or somebody like that goes out onto the right hand side and plays as a pseudo right wing back? Absolutely, they could. They absolutely could. But I still think it gives us opportunities to go straight down through the middle for them. Because if they do that, then they're going to be one man less at the, up top. They're also going to have there's going to be a lot of pressure on Janlet then in the middle to cover back and forth. And I think that could play into Morgan Rodgers or Asensio's hands, depending on who will play in that middle spot as well. So there is tactical ways that you can try and overload this Brentford team. Teams have done it recently. And, you know, like Brentford, okay, yes, they won 4-0 against Leicester recently. They beat West Ham 1-0 as well. Spurs got the better of them 2-1, the last 2-0 to Liverpool. So they don't ever get blown out. And that's not what I'm suggesting here at all. They drew 1-1 with Everton last week, and that was at home. But I think that if Villa are going to win this, they're going to need to create those mismatches, specifically, I think, on our left-hand side, their right-hand side, and utilize the absolute brilliant players that we have now up top to do that. And I'm expecting Villa to go there and to. I want them to go there and puff out their chest a small bit here and play our way of football, and not just soak up pressure and do what we normally do when we go away from home. Go away from home and play like, you know, like you want to get top 5. That's what I want Villa to do. Go and play like you want to get top 5. Go play like you deserve top 5. You know, go there to Brentford and go 2-0 up, and don't have them come back to be 3-2 like they did last year in and around this time last year. I think it was April last year we played them. It was because I was on a stag. We went 2-0 up, and then they came back to 3-2, and Watkins had to equalise late on in the game for us to salvage a draw from a 2-0 winning position. Games against Brentford that we play against Brentford are weird. They're like the results that we have against Brentford are weird if you think about it in a lot of ways. Sometimes we get comfortably, you know, dealt with. Sometimes we go there under Aaron Danks, and we're 2-0 up after 10 minutes, and we end up scoring 4 goals. And then there's games whereby you think the game is put to bed and Brentford come back and they never stop. And they come back and, as I said, they go 3-2 up, and then you have to, Watkins has to get a goal in the dying embers of the game to bring us back to 3-3. So complacency is not something you can have in this game. And attacking prowess is something you need in this game, because I think Villa need to force this game to be open. And I think based on the way the Brentford play, it will be open, because if they go with Shade and Mbeumo up top with Vissa and Damsgaard there, you will have space there. But you want to be damn sure that if you open up this game, you have a Kamara bringing it back full circle. You have a Kamara or somebody that stays in the middle of the field that can create that buffer zone and doesn't allow our centre half staff to turn and get and allow players to get a run on them, because there's pace in this attack, and Mbeumo is pacey, Damsgaard is pacey, Shade is pacey. There is pace here, and there are players in this on this Brentford team that we know only too well that if you give them an inch, they could end up with a hat-trick in this game. Shade did it against Liverpool this year. We know Brian Mbeumo at the start of the season, after his brilliant start to the season, he was being talked as being a 70-80 million pound signing for Arsenal, and insert big team here. He's 15 goals all right this season, and we don't want him to contribute anymore against Aston Villa at the weekend. He scored against Leicester in their 4-0 win. He scored against Palace in their 2-1 win. He scored 2 in their 5-0 humiliation of Southampton, and he scored in their 3-1 loss at Arsenal. So they're all in his last 10 games that they've played. So we need to obviously keep him quiet, and we need to make sure that he doesn't have an influence on that left-hand side, while also trying to overload that left-hand side when we do get a run on Brentford, because we will have a purple patch in this game. And as we know, we always concede. So don't let it beat the Brian Mbeumo and to be through anything silly. A lot of you guys talking about Malin and stuff like that in the comments there. I would like him to start. I really do. Feck it, yeah. Malin's going to start on the right wing. Garcia's going to start right back. We're going to have Rodgers through the middle, and we're going to have Rashford on the left-hand side. Asensio kept in reserve. Ollie Watkins up top. Kamara and Tielemans in the middle of midfield. And then Garcia, Konza, Mings, and Digne at the back. Why not? Watch him play Disasi, Bailey, and Malin up top now, or something along those lines. And Lamar Bogard in the middle of midfield, and completely change it up. But look, we're in a stage whereby we've got, as I say, we've got the cavalry. The cavalry has come back, or is more or less all the way here now. One more midfielder, and you're very confident about our bench being super strong and with incredible names and star power on our bench. Like we're arguably after the international break, and maybe it's 5 weeks too late for us to mount that 4th or 5th place challenge in the league. But after the international break, provided we don't have any more injuries, crikey, think about what our bench is going to be like with likes of Onana on the bench, and obviously we've got already got Pau Torres there. You probably have Cash on the bench. You're going to have maybe Marco Asensio on the bench as well. So there will be players. Maybe Malin's on the bench. We will have big name players that we can dip into, and hopefully go on a mad run at the end of the season in all 3 competitions and have some success that we can all celebrate. So listen, I am. Carrier says here, I hope Neil calls out FIFA Club World Cup, just PSR aid for Man City and Chelsea. It's a nonsense. It's $1 billion that's going to be split amongst 32 teams, and 2 of those teams will be invited there. It's a lot of shite. It's nonsense. And did I say it's nonsense? Because I should have. And if I didn't say it's nonsense, I want you all to know I think it's nonsense. But you know what? The second we get there, it'll be the best competition in the world, because what's good for Aston Villa is good for me, and it's good for business. Good for business for the club, should I say. So I think it's not needed. I think it's extra games. I think players will learn to, or we're not consulted with it. Players won't see any of that extra billion dollars. Nothing we can do about it. FIFA's transparent system once again working wonders. But I'm going to leave it at that now before we go down the rabbit hole of me going in on both UEFA and FIFA because nobody wants to hear that, and I like being of a positive persuasion on a Friday afternoon. So that's going to do it for our preview for Brentford. I was hoping we could hear from the big man himself, Unai Emery, but for whatever reason, it's not working. We will be back tomorrow with a team sheet tantrum and a post-match podcast tomorrow. So hopefully you'll join us for that. Hopefully you'll spread this far and wide and share it on Twitter or whatever social media platforms you're on just to help us out. And if you do like this, give us a thumbs up on the podcast as well. There's a couple of new features here in StreamYard that I'm going to be messing around with now for the next 10-15 minutes to see if I can get them working. Maybe for the team sheet tantrum. But in the meantime, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the villa.